Now you've got, of course, now you've got the classic "I booked accidentally," or "I booked on a whim," or whatever, and people aren't necessarily that honest about that sort of thing. But you do get sort of phenomena where people are booking multiple appointments for the same thing in different practices, and then they sort of go to wherever they find convenient at the end of the day. It's not great practice, but people do it. And often it's, to be honest, the result of things like having a contact form, but not a online booking system that's live with live availability. Often people just put loads and loads of stuff saying, this is my preferred time, blah, blah, blah. You end up booking that in for them and they don't turn up. Lots of stuff like that happens. But it all boils down to what Vanessa said in the beginning, which is taking a deposit and making sure that the patient knows that there's something to lose beyond just medical advice if they don't turn up. So it's all about the patient's perceived value. So you'll find, actually, I don't know how many of you have thought about this much before, but what I was, back in the day, quite surprised to understand and learn was that if you're given something for free, you automatically, in most cases, don't value it as much as you might if you'd paid even a nominal fee for it. So it's a case of, if you're essentially allowing people to book things for nothing, then there's no sort of, as the Americans would say, there's no sort of skin in the game on their sort of side. They don't they don't necessarily value what they've just done and what they've received because they have no reason to. So the easiest way you can do that, aside from having great websites with lots of content that's very relevant and all the rest of it, is to actually charge a deposit or a prepayment. So once money's on the table, it does actually increase someone's perceived value of whatever it is they've paid for, simply because that's human psychology. In most cases, that proves to be true. So what we do in Medesk is we use Stripe at the moment for all of our online payments side of things. And what we do is we enable you to offer a deposit or a prepayment option, so a minimum prepayment, so that the booking goes ahead. And what this does is actually automatically marks it as confirmed inside inside the patient record and sends out the relevant emails and confirmations and stuff automatically for you. So there's no need to process it manually unless you want to. And so what we do is we either provide a deposit according to a fixed value. So imagine it's like, say, £10, £20 per appointment, whatever it is, regardless of the overall cost of the appointment in the end. And of course, the other way is to make it a percentage, pardon me, make it a percentage, and obviously that will go up as the overall cost and value of the appointment goes up. So in other words, you're recouping some of the losses that you might make if they hadn't turned up. So if you need an expensive piece of equipment that you've got to hire, or something you've got to bring along with you, and that's why you might need to perhaps take the car and park for the day instead, and that costs you more money. There are all sorts of things, and it ultimately boils down to recouping your losses as easily as you can. So of those of you that are using a deposit regime, how many are doing it depending on the cost of the actual appointment? And how many of you are doing it sort of just got a fixed value? And for whichever reason it is, whichever one it is, why is it you choose to do it that way? Is there any particular reason you choose a fixed value over a percentage, for example? Okay, so Michael is surprised, says, never thought of percentages. Yeah, and to be honest, neither had I until our developers suggested it. And it does make a lot of sense because obviously there are reasons why certain things cost more. And, if you have a fixed value, then there are cases when you do recoup your overheads that and there are cases when you wouldn't. Or at least would recoup less. Whereas actually, if you do tailor it according to the overall cost, it usually makes more financial sense. It's more confusing to the patient from a certain perspective, unless you explain it as part of the booking terms and conditions as you go through, which you can do. But yeah, I mean, it makes perfect financial sense, really. I'm sure I could see someone else typing there. I will move on anyway. I appreciate time. Oh, there we go. Gina has said, I usually ask for full payment for assessment after someone refused to pay for the appointment. Yeah, so that makes sense. I mean, there is obviously a degree of risk involved in this kind of thing. And actually what we do is, aside from the deposit option, there is a full payment amount at the same time. So the first thing you can do is offer them the choice, if you want to be that flexible, and say, hey, you can pay the full amount or you can pay this deposit. Some people like to pay it while they can out of the way. Perhaps they just got paid, you know, or perhaps they just like to get things in order in that respect and don't want a payment hanging over them. Whatever reason it might be, that can be quite nice for people. But also what you can do is simply, with the minimum deposit, just put it as 100%, and it will be exactly the same as full payment. Simple as that. So you can use that to collect the entire thing. There's no sort of limitation to that. There's no restriction to actually taking a lower amount. And so as we use Stripe, it means they can just put their card details in. All that gets sent to Stripe, and then inside Medesk, an invoice is produced that's marked off as paid. And what you can actually do with Medesk as well is, thanks to Stripe, we don't only have the deposit option. You can actually ask the patients to log into their patient portal, click on the appointment that needs to be paid for, and actually pay the rest of the sum. Now, I find this has been an absolutely fantastic tool over this COVID sort of period, because people have been reduced to pretty much a skeleton team, sometimes even just a clinician on their own. And the last thing you want to do, really, if you can help it, is make that doctor-patient relationship transactional in nature. So, I mean, now, although it is ultimately, I mean, you know, you're providing a service and the patient's availing themselves of it, medicine isn't, you know, is different. It's not simply that. There is that aspect to it, but it's not just that at all, of course. So if you can separate that transactional aspect of the relationship from the consultation, then it makes every sense to do so. One way to do that perfectly, of course, is to take the whole amount in advance. The other way is to do it this way, which is to take a prepayment and then give the patient a link to the patient portal. They log in with their phone number and get an SMS code, just like when they made a booking, and then they can make the rest of the payment. And what actually happens in Medesk is that those payments get taken straight through. Everything's marked off as paid, and you get a little payment history. And of course, if you need to, you can synchronize that with accounting software like Xero as well. So you can get all your accounting done pretty much without touching it. We release new videos every week. Hit that subscribe button to learn how to grow your practice faster.